The grand hall of the Crystal Palace shimmered with 1,000 colors. Queen Velthara sat on her throne, watching the celebration below. Tonight marked 200 years since humans had been wiped from the galaxy. The nobles danced and laughed, their alien forms moving in strange patterns under the floating lights. Velthara felt nothing as she watched them. She had ruled for so long that celebrations meant little anymore. Her 4 advisors stood beside her throne, their bodies still informal. The music filled the air, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Then the air itself began to tear. A bright crack appeared in the center of the hall. It spread like lightning across the empty space, growing wider with each second. The music stopped. The dancers froze. Everyone stared as the crack became a hole, and through that hole came fire and metal. A small ship burst through the opening, spinning wildly. It crashed into the marble floor with a terrible sound. Pieces of metal flew in all directions. Nobles screamed and ran. The guards rushed forward with their weapons ready. Smoke poured from the broken ship. The hole in the air closed behind it, leaving only silence and shock. Velthara stood from her throne for the first time in months. She had not moved so quickly in years. The ship's door hissed and opened. A figure stumbled out, coughing. He wore a torn uniform and his face was covered in blood. He took 3 steps forward and then fell to his knees. "What is that?" one advisor whispered. Velthara knew exactly what it was. The shape was unmistakable. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Standing upright, soft skin instead of scales or shells. She had not seen one in 2 centuries, but she remembered. "A human," she said quietly. The word spread through the hall like poison. Guards raised their weapons higher. Some nobles fainted. Others began shouting for the creature's immediate death. Velthara raised 1 hand and silence fell again. The human looked up at her. His eyes were dark and filled with pain. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye. He tried to stand, but his legs shook too much. "Where am I?" he asked in perfect Andari language. His voice was rough but clear. The guards moved closer, their weapons pointed at his head. Velthara walked down the steps from her throne. Her advisors made worried sounds but did not stop her. She moved slowly, her long robes flowing behind her. She stopped 3 steps away from the human. Up close she could see he was young, perhaps 30 years by human counting. His uniform had symbols she did not recognize. On his chest was a name tag that read Tai Sung. "You are in the Andari Empire," Velthara said. "In my palace, on Luminara, and you should not exist." Tai Sung blinked at her. He seemed confused, like someone waking from a deep sleep. He looked around the hall, seeing the alien faces staring at him. Fear crossed his features for just a moment, but he pushed it away. "My ship," he said. "The wormhole. We were testing new technology. Something went wrong. Many things have gone wrong," Velthara replied. "Your species was destroyed 200 years ago. Yet here you are, alive and bleeding on my floor." She saw the shock in his face, the way his whole body went still, the way his mouth opened but no sound came out. Good. Let him feel what she felt. Surprise. Confusion. The sudden breaking of what should be true. "That's impossible," Tai Sung whispered. "We're not dead. There are colonies. Hidden worlds. We survived." The hall exploded with noise. Nobles shouted in fear and anger. Guards demanded permission to fire. One advisor began speaking rapidly about protocols and laws. But Velthara only watched the human. She believed him. She could see truth in his eyes, in his confusion, in his genuine shock at learning his species should be extinct. This was no trick. No planned attack, just an accident that had revealed something impossible. "Take him to the obsidian spire," Velthara commanded. "Lock him in the highest cell. No one speaks to him without my permission. No one touches him. He is mine to question." "My queen," one guard protested. "The law says any human must be killed immediately. The Treaty of Extinction demands it." Velthara turned to face the guard. Her eyes, ancient and cold, met his. He stepped back immediately. "I am the law," she said softly, "and I wish to understand this mystery." "Take him now." The guards grabbed Tai Sung roughly. He did not fight as they dragged him away. He only looked back at Velthara once, his expression full of questions. Then he was gone, taken through a side door that led deep into the palace. The nobles began talking all at once. Some demanded the human's death. Others wanted to know how this was possible. A few asked if more humans might suddenly appear. Velthara let them talk. She returned to her throne and sat down slowly. Clear the hall, she ordered. The celebration is over. As the crowd dispersed, Velthara sat alone with her thoughts. A human alive, after 2 centuries of believing them all dead. She had many questions and no answers. How had they survived? Where had they been hiding? Why had this one appeared in her throne room of all places? She called for her chief scientist, an insectoid creature named Kryn. He arrived quickly, his forearms moving nervously. You saw? Velthara asked. I saw, my queen, a human. Impossible and yet true. I want his ship examined. Every piece. I want to know how he came here. And I want to know why that wormhole opened in this exact location. Technology does not choose destinations randomly. Kryn bowed low. It will be done. Alone again, Velthara stared at the spot where Tai-Sung had fallen. A small pool of his blood still marked the white marble. Red blood, just like in the old records. Human blood on her floor after so long. She had helped kill them once. Or rather, she had failed to stop others from killing them. It was her greatest shame, hidden beneath centuries of rule. She had tried to save them, but she had been too weak. Too late. The purge had happened anyway, and now one had returned, dropped into her lap by chance or fate. Perhaps the universe was giving her a second chance. Or perhaps it was preparing to punish her at last. Either way, Velthara knew her empire would never be the same. The impossible had happened, and impossible things had a way of changing everything. The cell was cold and dark. Tai-Sung sat against the wall, holding his ribs where they hurt most. The guards had not been gentle when bringing him here. His head still ached from the crash, and every breath felt like knives in his chest. He looked around the small room. The walls were made of black stone that seemed to absorb light. There was no window, only a narrow opening in the door where someone could look in. A single light glowed in the ceiling, barely bright enough to see by. 200 years. The Queen had said humans were gone for 200 years. That meant the war had been lost. The Earth forces had fallen. Everything his grandparents told him about the Great Escape must have been a lie, or twisted by time. No, not a lie. They had survived. The colonies were real. He had just come from one. They had hidden so well that even the Andari thought them dead. That was good. That gave humanity time. The door opened suddenly. A young Andari stepped inside. She had blue skin and large eyes that seemed too big for her face. She wore a white coat and carried several devices in her arms. I am Bora, she said. Her voice was soft, almost nervous. I have been sent to examine you. Tai-Sung said nothing. He watched as she set down her equipment and pulled out a scanner. She kept her distance like he might attack at any moment. I need to check your injuries, Bora continued. The Queen ordered that you be kept healthy. So she can kill me later? Tai-Sung asked. Bora's expression flickered with something that might have been sympathy. I do not know her plans. I only know my orders. She moved closer with the scanner. Tai-Sung let her work. The device hummed as it passed over his body. Bora's face showed surprise as she read the results. Your bones are very dense, she said, and your muscle structure is different from what the old records show. You heal faster than we expected. We adapt, Tai-Sung said simply. Bora met his eyes for the first time. Is it true? Are there more humans alive? Yes, where? I won't tell you that. She nodded slowly as if she expected that answer. She continued her examination in silence. When she finished, she pulled out a small device and pressed it against his arm. Tai-Sung felt a sharp sting, then warmth spreading through his body. The pain in his ribs began to fade. That will help you heal, Bora said. I will return tomorrow to check on you. She gathered her equipment and moved toward the door. Then she stopped and looked back. I studied human history in school, she said quietly. They taught us that your kind were monsters, violent and unpredictable. But the records I found in the old archives told a different story. They said humans were creative, that you solved problems in ways no one expected, that you never gave up even when you should. What do you believe? Tai-Sung asked. Bora was quiet for a long moment. I do not know yet, but I want to find out. She left and the door sealed behind her. Tai-Sung sat in the darkness thinking about her words. Creative, unpredictable, never giving up. Yes, those were human traits, and he would need all of them to survive this. Days passed slowly. Bora came each day to examine him. Slowly, she began to ask more questions about human culture, about their technology, about how they had survived. Tai-Sung answered carefully. giving her enough to stay curious but not enough to endanger his people. On the 5th day, the door opened and guards entered. They pulled Taesung to his feet roughly. "The Queen summons you," one said. They took him through long hallways made of crystal and stone. He saw other aliens watching from doorways. Some looked curious. Most looked afraid or angry. The palace was beautiful but cold, like something built to impress rather than to live in. They brought him to a large room with a high ceiling. The Queen sat at a long table with several advisors around her. She gestured for the guards to bring Taesung closer. "Sit," she commanded, pointing to a chair across from her. Taesung sat. His hands were still bound, but he kept his back straight and his face calm. "You have had time to think," Velthara said. "Time to understand your situation. You are alone here. Your people believe you dead. Your ship is destroyed. You have no way home." "I understand," Taesung replied. "Then perhaps you will be reasonable. Tell me where your colonies are hidden. Tell me how many humans remain. Do this and I will make your death quick and painless." Taesung looked directly at her. "No," one advisor made an angry sound. Another began speaking rapidly in a language Taesung did not know. But Velthara only stared at him, her ancient eyes unreadable. "You choose death?" she asked. "I choose silence," Taesung said. "You can kill me, but you will learn nothing from my corpse, and my people will still be out there hidden and safe." "We will find them eventually," another advisor said. "We will search every dark corner of space." "You have been searching for 200 years, Taesung pointed out. "And you found nothing. You only found me by accident." Velthara raised a hand and the advisors fell silent. She leaned forward slightly, studying Taesung's face. "You are brave," she said, "or foolish. Perhaps both. But I did not bring you here to threaten you with death. I brought you here to make a proposition." Taesung waited. He had learned that humans often spoke too much. Sometimes silence was stronger. "You want to live," Velthara continued. "You want to return to your people. I want information. I want to understand how humans survived. So I offer you this. Prove yourself worthy of life and I will let you repair your ship's communication system. You can send one message to your people. Tell them you are alive. And in return," Taesung asked, "you will fight in the arena of proving. You will face our warriors in combat. If you survive 10 matches, I will grant you the chance to negotiate a peace treaty, not as a prisoner but as an equal. And if I refuse, then you stay in that cell until you die of old age. Your people will never know what happened to you. And eventually we will find them anyway." Taesung thought quickly. 10 matches. Against alien warriors who had probably trained their whole lives. His chances were not good, but they were better than no chance at all. "I accept," he said. Velthara smiled slightly. It was not a warm expression. "Good, your first match is tomorrow. Try not to die immediately. I have become curious about humans again and I would like to study you longer." The guards took him back to his cell. That night, Taesung did not sleep. He exercised, testing his body. The medicine Bora had given him had worked well. His ribs no longer hurt. He felt strong again. He thought about Jiwoo, his co-pilot and friend. Was he alive somewhere or had he died in the crash? He thought about the colonies, hidden among the asteroids and dead worlds. He thought about all the people depending on him to stay silent. Tomorrow he would fight. He would use every trick, every skill, every desperate tactic he had learned. He would show these aliens what humans could do when their backs were against the wall. He would survive. Not because he was the strongest or the fastest, but because humans had one advantage that could not be taught or trained. Humans refused to give up. Even when they should. Even when it made no sense. They kept fighting until the very end, and Taesung planned to fight for a very long time. The arena was larger than Taesung had imagined. Thousands of aliens filled the seats, their voices creating a sound like rushing water. The floor was covered in sand, and high walls surrounded the fighting space. Above, the sky was open, showing strange purple clouds. Taesung stood at one entrance, waiting. They had given him basic armor and a short blade. Nothing else. Across the arena, another door began to open. His opponent stepped out and the crowd roared. The creature stood nearly 3 meters tall. It had 4 arms, each ending in claws. Its skin was covered in thick plates that looked like natural armor. Red eyes fixed on Taesung with clear hunger. "That is a Krath warrior," a guard said behind Taesung. "They are born to fight. It has killed 40 opponents. You will die quickly." "Maybe," Taesung replied. "Maybe not." The signal horn blew. The Krath charged immediately, moving faster than something that large should be able to move. Taesung ran to the side, not forward. The creature's claws hit the sand where he had been standing. The crowd made disappointed sounds. They wanted to see blood, not running. Taesung circled around the Krath, keeping his distance. He watched how it moved. The upper arms were stronger. The lower arms were faster. The legs were powerful, but the knees bent backward. That was important. The Krath charged again. This time Taesung dove forward, sliding under its reach. He slashed at the back of one knee as he passed. The blade barely cut through the thick hide, but it was enough. The Krath stumbled. Now the creature was angry. It roared and attacked wildly, all four arms swinging. Taesung blocked what he could and took hits that he could not avoid. Pain exploded across his shoulder. Blood ran down his arm. But he stayed on his feet. Humans had studied many fighting styles over thousands of years. They had learned one important truth. Size and strength mattered, but so did speed and intelligence. And humans were very good at being smart when they needed to be. Taesung waited for the right moment. The Krath raised all four arms to strike down at once. Its chest was exposed for just a second. Taesung lunged forward and drove his blade between two armor plates right where a human heart would be. The Krath's hearts were not in the same place. But the blade still found something important. The creature made a choking sound and fell backward. It hit the sand and did not rise. The arena was silent. Then slowly, some in the crowd began to cheer. Others shouted in anger. Taesung stood over his fallen opponent, breathing hard, bleeding but alive. Queen Velthara watched from her royal seat. Her expression had not changed, but her eyes followed Taesung as guards led him from the arena. Bora was waiting in the medical room. She quickly began treating his wounds, her hands moving with practiced skill. "You should not have won," she said quietly. "The Krath are nearly impossible to defeat in single combat." "Nearly is not the same as impossible," Taesung replied. She cleaned the deep cut on his shoulder. "How did you know where to strike?" "I watched. I learned. Humans are good at that." Over the next weeks, Taesung fought 9 more matches. He faced warriors of different species, each with their own advantages. A flying creature with poisoned talons, a massive beast that could crush stone with its jaws, a fighter who could become invisible. He won some fights through skill, others through luck, a few by doing things that no one expected, because humans thought differently than other species. When facing the invisible fighter, he threw sand in the air to see its outline. When fighting the flying creature, he used his blade as a mirror to track its movements. Each victory made the crowd more interested. Some began to chant his name. Others bet money on his matches. The human became a strange attraction, something that should not exist but did. Between fights, Bora continued to visit him. She brought medicine and asked questions. Slowly they began to talk about more than just injuries. "Why did you become a soldier?" she asked one day. "My family was killed in a raid," Taesung said. "When I was young, I wanted to protect others from feeling that pain." "We are not so different then," Bora said softly. "I became a scientist to help people, to heal instead of hurt." "Do you believe what they teach you?" Taesung asked. "That humans are monsters?" Bora was quiet for a long time. "I believed it once. But monsters do not show mercy. In your last fight, you could have killed your opponent after he fell. Instead, you asked the queen to spare him. A monster would not do that." "Maybe I am just a different kind of monster," Taesung said. "No," Bora replied firmly. "I have studied you for weeks now. I have seen how you think, how you act. You are not a monster. You are just someone trying to survive." After his 10th victory, Taesung was brought before the queen again. This time he was not in chains. He stood freely in her private chamber, a room filled with strange plants and soft light. "You have done what I did not think possible," Velthara said. 10 victories. The crowd loves you now. They call you the Ghost Warrior, the one who should not exist. "I fulfilled my part of the agreement," Taesung said. "Now I want to contact my people." "You will. But first I wish to speak with you. Really speak. Not as prisoner and captor, but as two beings who have lived long enough to understand difficult truths." She gestured for him to sit. Wine was poured into 2 cups. Velthara took one and Taesung took the other. "I did not order the death of your species," Velthara said suddenly. "I want you to know that. 200 years ago I tried to stop it. I was not queen then, only an advisor. I argued that humans should be allowed to exist, that diversity made the galaxy stronger. But I was overruled. Taesung studied her face. Why tell me this? Because I am tired of lies, Velthara said. I took the throne in a rebellion. I killed those who ordered your genocide. But I was too late. Billions of humans had already died. I could only save a few things. Genetic samples. Cultural records. I hid them away, hoping that someday I might find a way to bring your species back. You kept pieces of us like museum exhibits, Taesung said bitterly. I kept hope alive, Velthara corrected, and now you appear, showing me that hope was already alive out there in the dark. Your people found their own way. They survived without my help. She drank from her cup. I am old, Taesung, very old. I have ruled this empire for 2 centuries, and I'm tired. Tired of war, tired of fear, tired of crushing others to maintain order. Then change, Taesung said. It is not that simple. My nobles will not accept humans returning. They fear you. They fear change. If I announce a peace treaty, there will be rebellion. Perhaps civil war. So you do nothing? Taesung asked. No, Velthara said. I do something very dangerous. I make an ally of you. I show my empire that humans can be trusted, that you can help us instead of destroy us. But I need your help to do this. What do you want from me? Truth, tell me about your colonies. Not their location, I do not need that. But tell me about your people. How many are there? What do they want? What would it take for them to trust us? Taesung thought carefully. This could be a trick. But he had watched Velthara for weeks now. He had seen how she looked at her empire. She seemed more sad than proud. Like someone carrying a heavy weight for too long. There are 5 colonies, he said finally. Maybe 50,000 humans total. We live on the edges of space in places others consider worthless. We have limited resources and old technology. We want what any species wants. To live, to grow, to be free. And if I offered peace? True peace, not slavery disguised as protection. They would not believe you, Taesung said honestly. Not after what happened before. Trust must be earned, not given. Velthara nodded slowly. Then we will earn it. Together. You will send a message to your people. Tell them you are alive. Tell them I wish to negotiate. And tell them to send a representative. Someone with authority to make agreements. They will think it is a trap. Perhaps. But you will convince them otherwise. Because you have seen something that no other human has seen in 2 centuries. You have seen inside the Andari Empire. You know our strengths and our weaknesses. And you know that I am sincere. How do I know that? Taesung challenged. Because I am giving you weapons, Velthara said. She pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. This contains everything. Our military positions, our fleet movements, our secret projects. If you betray me, if you give this to your people, they could strike at us in ways we cannot defend against. Taesung stared at the device. Why? Because trust requires risk, Velthara said simply. I'm risking my empire. Risk something in return. The message was sent 3 days later. Taesung stood in the communications room, speaking into a recorder that would beam his words across the stars. He chose his words carefully, knowing that everything he said would be analyzed by both friends and enemies. This is Lieutenant Taesung. I am alive and on the Andari homeworld of Luminara. I came here by accident through a wormhole malfunction. The Andari believed us extinct. They now know we survive. Queen Velthara has offered to negotiate peace. I believe she is sincere. Send someone with authority to discuss terms. But come carefully. Many here still fear us. He paused, then added something not from any script, something from his heart. I have fought and bled here. I have seen their empire from inside. They are not monsters. They are afraid. Fear makes people do terrible things, but it can be overcome. I hope we can find a way forward together. For all our sakes, the message was sent. Now came the waiting. It would take weeks for the signal to reach the colonies, more weeks for a response to return. In that time, anything could happen, and something did. Lord Vex, one of the Queen's chief military commanders, had been watching events with growing anger. He had lost family in the First Human War. His father, his brothers, his entire bloodline except him. He had spent 2 centuries believing humans were dead. Now he learned they lived, and worse, the Queen wanted peace. He could not allow it. Vex gathered other nobles who shared his hatred. They met in secret places, in rooms where the Queen's spies could not hear. They made plans. Weapons were moved. Loyal soldiers were positioned. Everything was prepared carefully. On the night chosen for their attack, Vex led his forces toward the palace. They moved through the city quietly, avoiding detection. The plan was simple. Kill the queen, kill the human, and take control before anyone could stop them. But someone had seen them coming. Bora had noticed strange movements in the military district. She had reported it to her supervisor, who reported it to the palace guard. By the time Vex reached the palace gates, soldiers loyal to the queen were waiting. The battle began with the sound of energy weapons lighting up the night. Citizens ran for shelter as warriors clashed in the streets. The palace sealed its doors, but Vex had prepared for that. He had inside agents who opened secret passages. Taesung was in his room when he heard the alarm. Bora ran in moments later, her face pale with fear. "Rebellion," she said. "Lord Vex is attacking the palace. He wants to kill you and the queen." "Where is the queen now?" Taesung asked. "In her throne room with her loyal guards. But Vex has many soldiers." "Too many." Taesung grabbed the blade he had used in the arena. It was all he had. "Take me to her." "You cannot fight them all," Bora protested. "I do not plan to fight them all. I plan to do what humans do best. I plan to cheat." They ran through the palace halls. Twice they encountered Vex's soldiers and had to hide. The palace was beautiful but complex, with many passages and rooms. Taesung began to form a plan. "Can you access the palace systems?" he asked Bora. "Some of them." "Why?" "The lighting, the gravity controls, the door locks. Can you control those?" Bora understood immediately. "Yes, from the central control room." "Then that is where you need to go. When I signal you, start changing things. Make it confusing. Make it chaos. What will you do?" "Humans fought guerrilla wars for thousands of years," Taesung said. "We learned how to make small forces seem like large ones, how to use fear and confusion as weapons. I am going to give Lord Vex something to be afraid of." Bora ran toward the control room. Taesung went toward the throne room, but not directly. He took side passages and hidden stairs. He reached a balcony that overlooked the main approach to the throne room. Below, Vex's forces were gathered. Maybe 200 soldiers, all armed and armored. They were preparing to break through the throne room doors. The queen's guards held the entrance but were outnumbered. Taesung pulled out his communicator and signaled Bora. "Now." The lights went out. Complete darkness fell. Then they came back on, but dimmer, flickering. Gravity shifted, making everyone stumble. Doors throughout the palace began opening and closing randomly. In the confusion, Taesung moved. He dropped from the balcony onto a hanging banner and slid down. He landed behind the rear line of Vex's forces. His blade found 2 soldiers before anyone realized he was there. He shouted in a loud voice, using the palace's echo to make it seem like many voices. "Palace guards attacking from the rear. We are surrounded." Vex's soldiers turned in confusion. Some fired at shadows. Others retreated, thinking they were being flanked. Taesung kept moving, never staying in one place. He would strike, then vanish. Strike again from a different angle. The lights continued to flicker. Gravity kept shifting. It felt like the palace itself was attacking them. Vex's forces began to panic. They had expected a quick assault. Instead, they found chaos and an enemy they could not see or pin down. But Vex was smart. He realized what was happening. One clever, desperate human was creating all this confusion. He ordered his personal guard to ignore everything else and push forward to the throne room. They broke through the doors with explosive charges. The queen's guards fought bravely but were pushed back. Vex himself entered the throne room, his weapon raised. Queen Velthara stood before her throne alone. Her guards had fallen or retreated. She faced Vex without fear, her ancient eyes calm. "It did not have to be this way," she said. "Yes, it did," Vex replied. "You betrayed everything we built. You would make peace with those who killed my family." "And how many families died because of your hatred?" Velthara asked. "How many more will die if this cycle never ends?" "All of them, if necessary," Vex said. He aimed his weapon at her heart. A blade came from nowhere, striking his arm. The weapon fell from his hand. Taesung appeared from behind a pillar, bloodied and exhausted but still fighting. "You," Vex snarled. "You are why this happened. You should have stayed dead with your kind." "My kind are survivors," Taesung said. "We do not stay dead easily." Vex drew his own blade, a long, curved weapon designed for his species. He was bigger than Taesung, stronger and trained since birth. In a fair fight, Taesung would lose, so Taesung did not fight fair. He threw sand from his pocket into Vex's eyes, grabbed a fallen shield, and charged. Not at Vex, but at the pillar beside him. The collision made the ancient structure crack. Stone began to fall. Vex dodged away from the falling debris. In that moment of distraction, Bora appeared at the entrance. She was carrying a weapon she barely knew how to use, but her hands were steady. "Stop," she said to Vex. "It is over. Your forces are retreating. The palace guard has surrounded them. You have lost." Vex looked around the throne room. At Tai Sung, bleeding but standing. At Bora, a scientist who had found courage. At the Queen, still alive. At his own soldiers, realizing their coup had failed. He could surrender. Or he could die fighting. For a moment, Tai Sung thought he would choose death. But then Vex lowered his weapon. "This is not over," he said quietly. "The Empire will never accept humans, never." "Then the Empire will change," Velthara said. "Or it will break. Either way, the time of hiding from the past is done." Vex was taken away by guards. His followers were arrested. The rebellion was crushed. But everyone knew he was right about one thing. This was not over. It was only beginning. In the medical room, Bora treated Tai Sung's wounds again. He had been hurt badly in the fighting. Broken ribs, deep cuts, burns from energy weapons. But he would live. "You could have run," Bora said as she worked. "You could have used the chaos to escape." "Why did you stay to protect the Queen?" "Because she trusted me," Tai Sung said simply. "And because I am tired of war. If there is a chance for peace, even a small one, it is worth fighting for." "You are strange," Bora said. "You fight for peace. You show mercy to enemies. You trust those who should be your enemies. That is what makes us human," Tai Sung replied. 3 weeks later, a response came to Tai Sung's message. A human ship was approaching Luminara. It carried Admiral Jun Ho, the commander of the Colonial Defense Forces. It also carried Tai Sung's niece, Young Mi, who had insisted on coming. The meeting that would change the galaxy was about to begin, and everyone wondered if it would end in peace or in a new war that would destroy them all. The human ship descended through Luminara's atmosphere like a falling star. It was small and old, patched together from salvaged parts, but it flew with purpose, carrying the weight of humanity's future on its metal frame. Tai Sung stood on the palace landing platform, watching it approach. Beside him stood Queen Velthara and Bora. Behind them were advisors, guards, and nobles who wanted to witness this historic moment. Some with hope, most with fear. The ship landed with a heavy thud. Its engines whined down. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the door opened and Admiral Jun Ho stepped out. He was old, maybe 60 years. His uniform was neat but worn. His face carried scars from old battles. Behind him came 6 soldiers, their weapons ready but not raised. And last came Young Mi, a young woman of 20 with her uncle's eyes. Tai Sung stepped forward. Young Mi ran to him and they embraced. Words were not needed. The relief in her face said everything. She had thought him dead and now he lived. Admiral Jun Ho approached more slowly. He studied the Queen, the palace, the alien faces watching from every window. His hand stayed near his weapon. "Admiral," Tai Sung said formally, "thank you for coming." "I came because you asked," Jun Ho replied. "But I do not trust this. Any of this. I understand. Come, the Queen wishes to speak with you." They walked through the palace together. Young Mi stayed close to Tai Sung, her eyes wide at the alien architecture. The soldiers kept formation, watching every shadow. Jun Ho's face revealed nothing. In the meeting chamber, a table had been prepared with seats for both species. Velthara sat at one end. Jun Ho took the other end. The two leaders studied each other across the distance. 200 years ago, my people tried to destroy yours," Velthara began. "There are no words that can repair that harm. No apology sufficient for genocide. I can only tell you truth. I did not order those deaths. I tried to stop them. I failed, and now?" Jun Ho asked coldly. "Now you want peace because one human crashed into your palace? Because it became inconvenient to maintain the lie?" "No," Velthara said. "I want peace because I am tired of ruling through fear. Because my empire is built on graves and lies. Because your nephew showed me that humans have not changed. You are still the same stubborn, impossible, brilliant species you always were, and the galaxy is poor without you in it." "Pretty words," Jun Ho said, "but words are easy." "What do you offer beyond words?" Velthara pushed a data device across the table. "Everything. Our military locations, our technology, our resources, full access to our trade networks, recognition of human sovereignty, a seat on the Imperial Council, all of it. Junho stared at the device but did not touch it. In exchange for what? Join us? Not as subjects, but as partners. Help us reform the empire. Teach us to be better. Many species in our territory are oppressed, just as you were. They need voices who understand suffering. They need humans. You want us to help you control the species you conquered? Junho's voice was sharp with anger. No, Velthara said. I want you to help me free them. The empire is changing whether I wish it or not. Lord Vex's rebellion was only the first. More will come. Nobles who fear change. Military commanders who prefer war. My rule is ending. What comes next will be determined by what we build now. Why should we care about your empire's problems? Because if the empire falls into civil war, billions will die. And eventually that war will reach your colonies. You have 50,000 people hidden in the dark. I have 3 trillion citizens across 300 worlds. When we will fall on everyone nearby, including you. The room was silent. Junho looked at Tae-sung, who nodded slightly. It was true. The Admiral had known it was true even before arriving. Isolation was no longer safety. I need time, Junho said. I need to consult with the Colonial Council. This is not a decision I can make alone. I understand, Velthara said. Take what time you need. I only ask that you consider carefully. Fear kept you alive for 2 centuries, but it will not carry you forward. Eventually you must choose. Hide forever or step into the light. The negotiations continued for days. There were arguments and disagreements. Human and Andari diplomats shouted at each other in 3 languages. But slowly, carefully, a framework began to form. During this time, young Mi spent hours with Tae-sung, learning about his experiences. She was a pilot like him, and she understood the weight of representing your species. They are afraid of us, she said one evening, as they walked through the palace gardens. Yes, Tae-sung agreed, but you are not afraid of them. I was at first, but then I learned something. Fear is just uncertainty. Once you understand something, it becomes less frightening. The Andari are not monsters. They are just people trying to survive like us. Uncle, Youngmi said quietly, do you think we can really trust them? I think we can try, Tae-sung said. And trying is better than hiding forever. On the 10th day, Lord Vex escaped from his prison. He had help from the outside. Loyal soldiers who shared his hatred. They broke him out and fled to a military outpost on the edge of the system. From there, Vex sent a message to the entire empire. He spoke of the Queen's betrayal, of the danger humans posed. He called for all loyal Andari to rise up and defend their civilization, and he threatened to attack the palace if the humans were not surrendered immediately. Ships began moving, some toward the palace to defend it, others toward Vex's position to support him. The empire split before everyone's eyes. Queen Velthara stood in her command center watching the fleet movements. She could call for a military response. She could crush Vex and his followers. But that would mean civil war. Thousands would die, or she could surrender the humans, end the crisis before it began, save her empire at the cost of peace. She looked at Tae-sung, who stood nearby. What would you do? She asked. I would not choose fear, Tae-sung said. Fear is what started all of this. Someone has to break the cycle. Velthara nodded slowly. She opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. Both sides, everyone. This is Queen Velthara, she said. Her voice was tired but firm. For 200 years I have ruled this empire. I have kept order through strength. I have protected you through isolation. But I have also lied to you. I have let you believe that safety comes from eliminating threats. That peace comes from controlling everything. She paused. I was wrong. The humans survived because we failed to destroy them completely, but they also survived because they adapted. They changed. They found a way forward even when there seemed to be no path. We can learn from them, or we can destroy ourselves trying to remain as we are. Lord Vex speaks from pain, Velthara continued. He lost family to humans. That pain is real and valid. But pain does not excuse genocide. It does not justify endless war. At some point we must choose. Continue the cycle of hatred or break it and try something new. I choose to break it, Velthara said. I am opening the palace to inspection. Any who doubt my intentions can come and see for themselves. The humans are here as guests, not prisoners. They are here to build a bridge, not to conquer. And if you cannot accept this, if you must have war, then come for me, not for them. I will stand between you and them, because it is the right thing to do. The communication ended. Silence fell across the command center. Everyone waited to see what would happen. Slowly, ships began to turn. Some of Vex's supporters broke away and headed back to their homeworlds. Others continued toward his position, but with less certainty. The rebellion was fracturing. Admiral Jun-Ho approached Velthara. "That was brave," he said. "Or foolish." "Both," Velthara replied. "Like your nephew." "If we agree to this peace," Jun-Ho said slowly. "If we come out of hiding and join your empire, you understand that we will not be quiet? We will speak for those who cannot speak. We will fight against injustice. We will be difficult and stubborn and frustrating." "I am counting on it," Velthara said with a slight smile. Young Me stepped forward then. "And if someone threatens us? If another Lord Vex rises up? Then we will face them together," Velthara said. "Human and Andari, side by side. That is what partnership means." 3 days later, Lord Vex surrendered. His support had collapsed. His ships had abandoned him. He was brought back to the palace in chains. This time, instead of a trial, Velthara offered him a choice. Prison forever or service. Help build the new empire or rot in the old one's shadow. Vex chose prison. Some wounds were too deep to heal quickly. But his soldiers, the ones who had followed him, were offered the same choice. Most chose service. They would watch the humans carefully. They would question and challenge everything. But they would participate. And through participation, perhaps understanding would come. The treaty was signed on the 30th day after the human ship arrived. It was called the Covenant of Two Skies. It established humans as equal members of a reformed imperial council. It granted independence to humans while maintaining military alliance. It opened trade and cultural exchange. It was not perfect, but it was a beginning. 5 years passed. The empire became a federation. Many species followed humanity's example and demanded representation. The structure changed from top-down control to council-based cooperation. There were problems and conflicts. Change was never easy, but it worked. Slowly, imperfectly, but it worked. T. Sung became the chief human ambassador. He spent his days